Hello, and welcome to my presentation of The 6 Stages of Retirement. I gave this presentation November 11th, 2015 to a meetup group called Adjusting to Retirement. Now, what I'd like to open up with is a question. What do these things have in common? A first child, a first home, and retirement. Well, they're first. These are things that we experience for the first time and things that we plan and prepare for. But often our experience doesn't match our expectations. Now, the way I answer this question is they are disruptive. But being disruptive, that means we have to manage this disruption. And how do we go about that? Well, by making adjustments. And fortunately, there are resources and tools available that can help us adjust. When it comes to retirement, there are 4 areas that we need to adjust to. First, there's the social and leisure time. Second, financial and legal affairs. Third, health and healthcare. And fourth, psychological. Now, retirement is disruptive socially in the sense that we go from working 40 plus hours a week typically to suddenly having all that time available to us, and that's disruptive of our normal routine. Financially, it can be very disruptive as well as traumatic when we go from having a paycheck to not having a paycheck, unearned income replacing earned income. Now third, many of us when we were working got our health insurance through our employer, and what we typically had to do was every year during open enrollment make our benefits choices, but most of that work was done by our HR departments. Now fourth, the psychological disruption comes about because many of us, while we're working, identify with our job, with that company, with what we're doing. We have our social interaction through people, and we have the organization structure. That's our world. And when that goes away, you can find it can be very disrupting. So when it comes to adjusting to the social disruption, a meetup group such as the one I presented to, Adjusting to Retirement, is one very great resource available to us to help us adjust to having all of this time now. When it comes to adjusting financially, we can engage the services of a financial advisor, an investment advisor, and they can use tools such as retirement income calculators or budgets to help us handle the financial disruption. When it comes to health and healthcare, well, we had to go into the private health insurance market because we retired before we were 65 and Medicare eligible. And this was terra incognita for us, and we really didn't have any experience or knowledge where to turn. So we engaged the resources of a health insurance agent who was a great help to us in navigating through that very complex world of health insurance in the private marketplace. And fourth, psychologically, one of the tools and resources that we have available to us is this model of the 6 stages of retirement. Now, this model was developed in 1975 by Robert Ashley, who was professor of gerontology at Miami of Ohio University. And here are the 6 stages that he defined: pre-retirement, retirement, disenchantment, reorientation, retirement routine, and termination of retirement. Okay, so you may be thinking, that's great, so what? Well, what value does the model offer? It seems a bit nebulous, right? Touchy-feely. Well, one of the things that having a model to look at and draw upon is that it puts our experience into our normal context. And it informs us what comes next, which can help us to prepare to adjust. So let's look at each stage briefly. Stage 1, pre-retirement. This is characterized by planning for what retirement will entail and disengaging from the workplace. Now, some of you have seen the commercial that's been aired recently, and it's from State Farm Insurance, and there's a woman who walks into her manager's office and announces her 15-year notice, so she's going to leave work in 15 years. Now, that's an example of disengaging from the workplace maybe a little too early. I think it's probably 12 months in to the date that you're going to retire that you really start making those preparations for leaving your job. Stage 2, retirement. Now, Robert actually identified three paths that people typically go down. The first is called the honeymoon path, and it's characterized, or it's described as an indefinite vacation, where people now have time for travel, to take on projects, and engage in other activities that interest them. The second path is called immediate retirement routine. Now, these are for people who already have a busy life outside of work, or work interferes with all the things that they've got going on. And now, guess what? Now they have that time, and for them, that transition into retirement happens quickly and almost seamlessly. Now, the third path is known as rest and relaxation, and it's characterized by a very low level of activity. And what comes to mind to me is I imagine people just sitting on the couch, napping, reading, watching TV. And these are people who had very, very extremely busy careers. And at this point, they're just exhausted and they don't want to deal with much of anything. Now, stage 3. This is the one that caught my attention and drew me to the model, because most people don't talk about disenchantment when they're talking or thinking about retirement. The media, friends, family, everyone portrays retirement as, you get to this point in life and you're going to be kicked back on a beach somewhere, so you're free to do whatever you want and no worries. And that's true for some people, but many people experience disappointment or uncertainty. And they miss that feeling of being productive, of being valued, of being in the game that work provides. So let me introduce you to Betsy of betsysbeat.com. Now, Betsy took early retirement in August of 2013. She was a lawyer who worked for a national employee benefits consulting firm. And she worked there for about 25 years and decided that she was ready when they offered this opportunity to take the early retirement package. So, as she was getting ready to leave work, she had planned financially, and she said right down to the penny. She was very meticulous about her financial planning. But by her own admission, at the same time, she was too busy to think about what she was going to do. Well, when she retired, she went down the honeymoon path, and she visited the Bay Area. She took a trip to France. She went to attend football games at Annapolis, and then the holidays came. And so she was very busy and really enjoying her life. And after the first of the year, and she kind of realized that, she and her husband were empty nesters. She looked at her calendar, and in February, the only activity on her calendar in February was clean the garage. And then, she just stopped and thought, gosh, that's not much. And, I'm kind of lonely at the same time. And, I'm not feeling that sense of self-worth or purpose that her work had provided her. And on top of that, her husband had been retired several years earlier than she had retired. And his retirement had taken on the house, custody kind of the house, where he did all the shopping, the cooking, the cleaning. And if he wanted to, he could watch a movie in the middle of the day in the surround sound home theater. And Betsy kind of felt like she was invading his space, and that, as she said, she felt like an intruder in her own home. So all of this culminated in a decision she made to Google emotional adjustments to retirement. And guess what? She discovered the 6 stages of retirement model. And what was so great about that for Betsy was that she found out that her own existential crisis is quite normal. She didn't feel that she was alone or abnormal, which was a big relief to her. But it also sparked the realization that she needed to move on, and she needed to take action in order to move on. So what follows then is stage 4, reorientation. Now, after a period of disenchantment or rest and relaxation, people take inventory of their retirement experience, which was basically what Betsy was doing. They're looking for ways to improve their retirement life. And if you're disenchanted, that kind of makes sense. They're looking for a second chance at retirement, retirement 2.0. Now, Betsy feels that this stage was the most difficult stage for her because it challenged her with what she calls these existential questions. She had to build a new identity. And so she had to answer, who am I now? Does my life have meaning and purpose? And if so, what? What am I going to do? So what Betsy did was she began trying out new things. She signed up for 7 adult education classes. She joined 3 women's groups, and she started taking exercise classes at the Y. And gradually she began to expand her circle of friends. Now, this is probably unique to Betsy. It's a bit of an anomaly, I think, but she sat down with her husband and they negotiated who's going to do what household chores. Now remember, that was his domain. And Betsy felt that she won a victory when her husband conceded that he would allow her to cook dinner on Wednesday nights. The big thing for Betsy was that now she felt that she was part of the home, that was her home, and that the home played a role in her retirement, that she could contribute, and that her and her husband were partners again. On to stage 5, retirement routine. This is characterized by mastering a comfortable and rewarding retirement routine and is considered to be the ultimate goal. Some people achieve this shortly after they leave work, and those are probably the people who went down path to the immediate retirement routine. Others take longer, only finding their way after years of extended leisure or a period of disenchantment and reorientation, like Betsy. And hopefully what comes out of this is a fulfilling and comfortable routine that will last for many, many years. Now, one of the fun things and great things about becoming a retirement blogger is I've got to meet some really nice people along the way. One of them is Dave Bernard. Now, Dave is a retirement blogger for U.S. News and World Report, and he blogs about the non-financial side of retirement. And his blogs also appear on his own website, lovebeingretired.com. Now, a couple months ago, one of Dave's posts included the following quote attributed to James Dean. "Dream as if you will live forever. Live as if you will die tomorrow." Now, I probably spent way too much time thinking about this quote, but it really resonated with me, especially the part about live as if you will die tomorrow. And I thought about that from the standpoint of, well, what if? What if today were my penultimate day? How would I want to spend it? And I thought, I'd like today to be the same as yesterday. And typically my days include going out for a trail run at Browns Ranch Mountain Preserve. It includes coming back and maybe working on my website or working on a blog post or a podcast or working on my Sun Sounds of Arizona volunteer work. And then it's, maybe spending some time reading or doing some work around the house. Then comes happy hour. And the best thing about it is I get to spend the day with my wife, which is the best part the most important part of my life. And so I came to the realization that I really love my retirement routine and that I've achieved this goal and I'm thriving in retirement. And it didn't come easy, so that makes it even more rewarding and more special for me. And I wrote a blog post for my website called Live for Today Routinely as sort of a tribute to this whole thought process that I gave to the quote that I picked up from Dave Bernard. Next, the 6th and final stage is termination of retirement. And the benefit of actually including this in the stages of retirement is that it helps us to plan and prepare for a time in our lives when we will not be as independent as we are today. Okay, so takeaways from this presentation. Things that I hope you remember. The power of 3s. The first is retirement is disruptive. The second is that adjusting to retirement includes social, financial, health, and psychological aspects. And third, the 6 stages of retirement model is a resource to help us adjust our retirement journeys. I want to thank you for your attention during this presentation. Thanks for joining me. And I wish you all the best in your retirement journeys. Until next time, see ya.